Hello and welcome to SolidWorks Live. Whether you're joining us on live.solidworks.com, Facebook, or YouTube, and newly as of today, we are now also streaming live on Instagram. So thank you to everybody who's tuning in live. If you're seeing this for the first time or recorded afterwards, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and also on Instagram now as well, so you get notifications when we go live. If you're joining us this afternoon, we're going to be discussing data management for the SolidWorks solution. But a quick recap, this morning we actually did, Michael and I were also in another live broadcast where we talked about the simulation portfolio for SolidWorks. So if you're interested in some of the simulation tools for SolidWorks, how you might use simulation, I encourage you to go back and check that out. But to talk about data management, I'm joined here today again by Michael Steves on the product introduction team. I'm Jeremy Rignaris from the product introduction team. But now we have Mark Peterson, also from the product introduction team. Mark, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And Lisa Costa, technical business consultant with SolidWorks. Lisa, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do today is we kind of wanted to explore some of the data management tools in the SolidWorks portfolio. And we thought a fun way to do this is we take on some personas of some different types of organizations to kind of look at not necessarily what's the right tool for each persona, but an example of that. So that's the first thing we should say. We're not by no means saying a certain type of customer should use a certain type of data management tool, but we thought this would be a fun exercise. So why don't we start here, Lisa? Tell us a little bit about the persona of the type of customer that you're looking on taking the role of.
So basically, I'm a smaller company, possibly a startup. I have little or no IT, don't really have any servers, nor do I want the hardware or the additional cost of having those servers. Already using cloud tools, a lot of online business tools for running our business, and really would like to have minimal startup, right? Be able to get something up and running quickly.
Okay, that sounds exciting. It sounds very dynamic in the way you like to work. All right. Mark, tell us a little bit about your organization that you're going to be representing here today.
Yeah, so the organization I'm representing would be something like a small to medium-sized business. Maybe we've been around for a little while. We have pretty well-established processes that we use, and we might have maybe some light IT. Maybe some network-attached storage devices. Maybe we have some servers, a CAD admin, that sort of thing. Primarily, we're going to be using SolidWorks suite of tools. So that's going to be SolidWorks CAD plus maybe some other things like electrical and other products. So
Maybe a composer or something like that.
Composer, something like that, sure.
All right. Michael, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little bit of a larger organization today. I mean, I've got multiple business systems, a lot of operational efforts I'm concerned with, multiple departments and teams from engineering like Mark, but beyond that to sales, marketing, manufacturing even.
Okay.
So it's important for in this company of we're defining our own processes. We really want to take ownership of what we have, and for a lot of the systems that we have in place for like PDM and ERP type systems. Yeah, and we have an IT team in this case that help us bring all these solutions together.
Okay, so y'all have a little bit different needs and expectations of what data management means to you. So I think what we'd like to do is we've already gone through and kind of paired a data management solution with each one of you. And then we're going to go through and we're going to ask some questions, both why that tool's relevant to your type of organization and what some of the advantages and values are there. Now, that doesn't mean that the advantages of those tools aren't relevant to all of you or two of you. So that's really important we get that out of the way. We're just looking at a couple examples, how different tools help different companies in different ways. So let's start by looking at what are the tools that you decided to work with. So Lisa, we'll keep that order the same here too. So everybody watching kind of always knows we go Lisa, Mark, Michael as we kind of go through that. All right. So Lisa, let's start with you.
Great. So I chose the 3D Experience platform.
Okay.
For my data management. Obviously, we have SolidWorks files. We're a SolidWorks customer, so we have a desktop tool. But we love our desktop CAD tool, but we need to have a seamless integration with online cloud-based tools. Here we see a browser where we're able to see our SolidWorks data as well as in the context of collaboration, project management, and as we saw earlier today, advanced simulation tools as well.
Sure.
So able to put that on one platform and be able to kind of consume as we need functionality as opposed to big bang.
Cool. And kind of as a smaller organization looking to grow, are you guys looking at the 3D Experience platform as a way to like kind of grow into new tools as you see the demand for those?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's more like I said, like cable TV used to buy everything but watch 3 channels. Now we can, we're going to start with data management and get that in the business, the collaboration, project management. But then as our needs grow, the platform has more functionality to offer us as a company.
Okay, cool. Now, Mark, how about yourself? What type of a data management solution did you look at?
Yeah, for us, we're looking for, maybe we already have a large repository of files, and what we want to do is give secure access to those files, make sure they're organized in a way that makes sense, and that can be accessed, from anywhere if necessary, or maybe multiple offices. Ultimately, we really want to make sure that we have very tight integration with SolidWorks. So as you can see here with this screenshot, the SolidWorks PDM Professional solution is right there inside the SolidWorks interface, which means you can access it directly. So for us, SolidWorks PDM Professional may make the most sense.
Okay. Gives you some flexibility and customization, things like that too?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Michael, how about yourself?
Well, so I'm like Mark, where I have a lot of the same needs, SolidWorks integration, these types of things. We've actually been using SolidWorks PDM for a number of years, but as we're taking a look at, automating more throughout our organization, I'm going to be using SolidWorks Manage to bring that all together in those different operational efforts in those different departments. So something that's on-premise for us, but that we can access throughout our multiple sites, and even when we're on the road.
Okay. Access to a lot of different types of information, things like that too, right? So, all right, so we've kind of established what type of organization we're representing, kind of looked at a tool that we feel like is probably a good fit for you. What I want to do now, I want to go through and I want to ask some questions. Speaking of, I think for anybody watching here at home, if you have questions about like what are the right data management I don't have data management, I'm interested in it, and you have questions, add those questions in the comments, whatever platform you're joining us on, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Put those in. We have people moderating our social media platforms, and they'll be able to help answer those questions or guide you to the right person for that, for sure. So definitely participate in the conversation at home as well. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and I thought one of the first questions that comes to my mind is, do you guys ever have to access your data offsite?
Well,
For me, it's
what site?
2019. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I guess this
everybody.
is like kind of an irrelevant, this is a kind of rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Everybody really needs to have access to their data offsite, it sounds like.
Right.
Okay, but I have to imagine each of you handle this in a slightly different way with the tools you're using.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's start with you, Lisa. Why is accessing your data offsite both important, and how does the 3D Experience platform like enable that?
Well, we're a small company, but some of us are always remote, right? We may not even have an established office. Maybe we share a WeWork office. Who knows? But we all are basically need to access that from anywhere. So any device, anywhere, it could be your phone, it could be non-Windows devices, tablets. We might have some people in our company that aren't Windows users like our SolidWorks users are. So obviously the 3D Experience platform gives us that ability to access all the same business processes, all the same information, but not necessarily have to do it from a Windows PC.
Okay, sounds very flexible.
It's very flexible. Well, it's the cloud. Yeah.
Okay.
If you listen to music or watch movies, you're probably familiar with it.
Fair enough. I mean, I started off with this question. I feel like I deserve this. All right. Mark, let's look at your organization using SolidWorks PDM. Accessing your data outside of your remotely is just as important. How do you handle something like this?
Yeah, and it can be important in a couple of different ways. So, many companies like mine have multiple office locations, and they want to be able to, have access to that data in both locations. So SolidWorks PDM Professional supports the synchronization of that data, automatically between those two office environments, if you like. But in many cases, you may be working with engineers in the field or other vendors or partners that want to have access to the data too. So here we're showing an example of the Web 2 portal, which is a web access to your PDM server. So you can see the parts, you can rotate them in 3D space, of course, with the embedded viewer. You can look at the revision history of files. You can even download the information so you could work on it, for example, if you needed to do that. And again, all of that's secure. So, you have to log in with your credentials, and based on that login, you can do different things. So.
Okay.
download files from there. I mean, if it's CAD files, non-CAD files, which is great, and we leverage that too.
Mm.
So, Jeremy, for us, needing to access data off-site, yes, and actually we need to access the same data at multiple sites as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to answer this in two ways. So let's take a look at one way that we do this is with dashboards with SolidWorks Manage. Being able to deploy these at the different sites. For instance, we've got multiple dispersed engineering teams, but they're all working towards the same effort, so that we can use again these dashboards, these with a new dashboard viewer. So that they're constantly up to date with the given information. So this is something that we have highly configuration control over to display what information we want to display to them. The second piece is, yes, if we're on the road, for instance, if from our field offices, some of these sales engineers need to go out or they're working on projects, they can use a web portal for SolidWorks Manage as well. And this is very similar to the actual the client that's installed on your Windows machine, but it's through a web interface. So you go through your browser, you log in again with your credentials, so you can access your tasks, your projects, your processes inside SolidWorks Manage, to bring it all together and stay connected. So the sales engineer that's out there doing some work on a project, he's able to come back, put in his details right away, not having to wait until he gets back to the office. He can do it on the road.
So at the end of the day, all of you have a solution for people being able to access data from your company externally, or you guys all also mentioned multi-site as something really important as well. You want to make sure that we're always able to collaborate that way. And obviously with the platform, that's always available everywhere, so that's multi-site as well.
Yep, exactly.
So these are important things. I think one of the next things we look at when we think of data management beyond accessing our data is how we manage that through workflows and things like that. So a product gets designed, it needs to be changed or whatever it is. How do we handle things like workflow? Say, for example, Lisa, let's take a look at the 3D Experience platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have all the data management you'd expect to be able to manage SolidWorks files and other types of data as far as security, access, maturity, lifecycle. And we also, if we take a look, you can see it's right inside of SolidWorks as well. We have a SolidWorks add-in for accessing not just those capabilities, the data management capabilities, but also all the other apps on the platform as well. So to integrate tightly to the other business processes and workflows in general, but we do have lifecycle maturity, and then we can also get to our tasks, and I'll be able to let people know that we've finished something. All of those are right inside of the add-in for SolidWorks. So a great workflow from start to finish, and great tight integration for our SolidWorks users.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people say, so I know a little bit about cloud. So a lot of people say cloud and they think you have to go to a web browser to use the cloud tools. What's great here is, no, it's actually right inside of my design environment, right inside of SolidWorks. I am leveraging all the capabilities of the 3D Experience platform, but I never actually have to leave SolidWorks to do it.
Yep.
So how do we manage things like this inside a SolidWorks PDM, Mark?
Right. So with SolidWorks PDM, you have similar control over how files are moving through workflows in different states. However, for a company like mine, it may be really important to be able to sort of edit those workflows a little bit, have a little bit more control over those. And so we see an example here of what something like that might look like. It's not necessarily has to be something complex, but for us and what we're doing, we may want to just change that up a little bit and be able to adjust that per our needs. But it's not just that workflow. Different files and different file types might need different workflows themselves. So for example, let's say we export a bill of materials to a spreadsheet or something like that. We want to handle that file a little bit differently than our regular CAD data. And so with PDM Professional, we can do that. It gives us that control.
Sounds like you have a lot of customization and you can really dive in and tweak how any type of file might be handled inside of your organization.
That's right.
Okay. Michael, when we look at your type of organization and SolidWorks Manage, beyond like what we can do with SolidWorks PDM, what do we see with SolidWorks Manage that facilitates this?
Well, yes, so to transition from SolidWorks PDM to SolidWorks Manage, well, actually, there is no transition. SolidWorks Manage is built on top of PDM. So like a lot of the value that Mark was just talking about, we leverage at this organization. So from unlimited workflows, highly configurable. I mean, we can really come in, define the processes how we want them to work, down to different automated tasks that are unique to different departments and different teams. So that makes it, we think a lot about the processes and the automation that goes on through our company, and we can define it exactly how we want. But what I want to show you here is a little bit different in terms of managing the data, because one thing that I want to highlight here with Manage is bill of materials. We can have kind of advanced bill of materials with SolidWorks Manage. Again, leveraging the CAD information from SolidWorks this case to build up that initial BOM, but we need a final production BOM. What are we actually shipping to our customer? What boxes are we using? What instructions are we sending? And what versions of all those components are we sending? But we also have configuration control requirements where we have a product that's sold in North America, and that needs to be different from that product that's sold in Europe, for example. So this is where with SolidWorks Manage we can do BOM variants. So SolidWorks Manage makes it very easy for us to duplicate our BOMs and make those modifications for those local geographies to make it easy to manage at the end of the day.
So data for you is more than just controlling a SolidWorks file and what's happening with that. You're kind of thinking even out beyond how that engineering data itself.
Yeah, and we'll see this a little bit later, I think. But with CAD files stored in PDM, that's great for us. But we also have things that we need to track that aren't files.
Sure.
Like items and records and details about our designs and products that we manufacture and sell.
Okay. So we looked at like what managing those files means to each of you. I think one of the next questions we're going to come up to, and I think a lot of people think of this when they think of data management, is they go, well, I'm managing my data. Can I do revisions? And can I track things like revisions in my designs? Mm-hmm. So how do we handle this with something, say, for example, like the 3D Experience platform?
Yeah, so the 3D Experience platform, we definitely have the ability to do revision control. So you have the ability to have any of the item types, whether it's CAD files, any of the product data, right, in the unified product structure. And the plug and play nature of the 3D Experience platform comes in here. So from a standpoint of getting up quickly, right, we have a revision scheme, we have a life cycle and maturity that we follow, and we have the ability to get up and running quickly with our customers that don't want to spend a lot of time configuring and figuring out their own process. So it can be as simple as just using those life cycles in the revision for doing change management, or the advantage of being on the 3D Experience platform is that there are more rigorous change procedures that include change actions, issues, things like that. So when I grow as a company to the point where I need more formalized change processes, those types of things are there for me on the 3D Experience platform, and obviously leveraging years and years of experience in the PLM industry with Dassault.
I mean, it sounds like you can start as easy as you want, and you can grow to as complex as you want to get with this. And that sounds like a big advantage with these types of tools.
Exactly.
So.
Yep.
Mark, when we talk about like change management and things like that, or revision control inside of SolidWorks PDM, I mean, how are we handling this today?
Yeah, it's not dissimilar from what Lisa was speaking about either. But I guess, for a company like ours, maybe we've been around for a little while and we've got revision schemes that we've become accustomed to. And with SolidWorks PDM, we're able to just take those revision schemes and plug them in. And then that means that we can use that. So we don't have to move to necessarily a new system or anything if we don't want to. Of course, we could use a very simplified one if we want. But if we already have something that we like and we want to go with that, just plug it in and you're ready to go.
Yeah, and you can tie it right into those workflows that we saw earlier. As things change, you can use that to help you kind of control the revision scheme that you'll see going through there. Now, Michael, you kind of, I think we're alluding to this a little bit. It can get really complex when you start thinking about things that aren't even CAD files, right?
Yeah, and I know like on the 3D Experience platform and even in PDM, you can put really any electronic file in them. You can reference them throughout the organization so you can track this. And of course, we can do this with SolidWorks Manage as well. But like I was talking about earlier, in terms of some of the workflow, like building on PDM, we have additional processes that we can define. So let's take a look at what some of these look like, because this goes, again, beyond CAD to new product introduction, to engineering change. Sure, CAD is important and plays a role in there of, okay, what CAD file am I going to change, but why are we making that change? Where did that come from? What happened in the history of our organization? SolidWorks Manage allows us to add any record that's inside our system, or if we're adding external, maybe it was an email from a customer, for instance, we can attach right into the record inside SolidWorks Manage. So when we kick off a process, we're able to add exactly what we need. This can be from a variety of sources to take it through its life, and being able to share that information throughout our organization. SolidWorks Manage makes that possible for us.
Really allows you to go beyond just the engineering data, which sounds very compelling for a lot of people who might have a need for something like that. Absolutely. So, all right, let's take a look at the next question. I mean, we've talked about data management, change control, and these all feel like really core fundamental parts when we think of data management. But I think one of the other things that can get overlooked is project management. I mean, it's more than just checking in a file and putting a revision to it. A lot of these files are going to be associated with projects or bigger concepts within inside of the organization. So again, Lisa, let's start with you. Let's think about project management on the 3D Experience platform and how do we handle things there?
So yeah, we have what you would expect in any project management, the ability to have projects, reuse projects, start a project from another using it as a template. We have milestones, activities, tasks, assignees, and then also the deliverables. It's a seamless integration with all of the other data. So the deliverables, the attachments can be SolidWorks data, can be any product data. And what we see here is that it's actually an execution tool, because instead of being a file that people have to keep up to date, this is all the users actually reporting that back into that project. So it's always up to date as to what's really going on with everybody's tasks and what people are working on, including getting the CAD files up to date. So it's a pretty sweet tool, pretty easy to do, drag and drop setup as well, being able to do dependencies and all the things that you do in project management. So.
Okay, but I'm a CAD user. I'm maybe not an engineering manager. Is this my outlook into, say, a project? Do I see what, say, Michael and Mark and everybody else in the organization
Doesn't
is
have to,
on?
No, because we talked before about the seamless integration of the different roles people have at a company, right?
Okay.
If I'm an engineer and all I care about is on December 10th.
Yeah, I just care about
I got to
my
work on
task,
those CAD
right?
files. I got to make that change to that CAD file. What will happen is I don't see the whole project that way. The project manager probably does, but
Okay.
what I see is the task shows up in my Kanban type looking board, and I've got it in a to-do, and when I'm working on it, I put it in progress, and when I'm done, I say complete, and that's going to automatically report up into that project.
But for someone like you, like the project manager, you
I get
have
this
this high-level
picture.
overview.
Yeah, big
I mean,
picture.
that sounds really like a really compelling way to kind of manage a project.
Exactly, yep.
All right, so Mark, when we look at SolidWorks PDM, I mean, what's project management mean kind of in your world, and what are some of the tools you're using?
Yeah, it can mean a lot of things. I mean, you're open to use, just about anything you like. And, we may take a more traditional approach to project management using some project management software from a third party, or even just a simple spreadsheet software. And, if we're happy with that, then that's fine. Of course, those files that are generated through that process can be stored along with the CAD data inside the PDM vault, and it's all secure, and it can be pushed through those workflows like we talked about earlier. So that's great. But we also want to make sure that we stay organized in our vault as well. Where do all those files go and where are they placed? So we want to have a nice folder structure for that. So here's an example of, we're working with, SolidWorks Electrical. We want to create or PCB, let's say. We want to create a PCB to fit here. And so I'm just going to right click inside my PDM vault and use a template. So this template gives me a folder structure that I can define, as well as maybe even populating that folder structure with some, boilerplate or starter files. So in this case, we have some SolidWorks Electrical, SolidWorks PCB starter files that, we know we're going to sort of create these anyway, so might as well put them in there, and we can keep everything nice and organized using this template functionality.
Sounds like a big time saver if all your projects kick off the same way and have a lot of the same required files over and over and over again. This seems like a really easy way to set that up, and nobody has to go through and manually create this stuff.
Right. If you leave the manual creation to the engineers, we're good at not getting that right every single time. But if you can set it up with a right click, then it's a lot easier. You stay organized, and it's you don't have to just do it with like electrical files either. So it can also be CAD files or anything you want. So.
And can they be different based on the types of projects you're creating, can you create different types of projects?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Sounds really flexible in its ability to be customized that way. Now, Michael, we've looked at the 3D Experience platform, SolidWorks PDM. Let's go back to manage. What's project management look like there?
Well, so what Mark explained in terms of using a third party and or spreadsheets to do our project management, that was one of the challenges we were able to get, to alleviate moving to SolidWorks Manage. Project management is one of the pillars of SolidWorks Manage, so we have project management tools inside inside that application. So from and we can take a look at some of this too, from being able to actually leverage some of the data that was generated from some of these project management tools. I can import that into SolidWorks Manage to reuse existing data or project templates, or define and create my own. So this is where we can associate resources, and actually this we're actually using a lot of the same technology that Lisa talked about earlier, of assigning resources, associating files to the project so that it's in one location for us. So this is just built on top, or built with the other technology that we talked about earlier on our system.
Same type of thing, get nice high-level overview of kind of how your resources are being allocated, when is the project going to be done, things like that, right?
Yep, yep.
All right. So we've asked some pretty generic questions as we've gone through here, typical things that I think somebody, when they're looking at data management, are concerned about. But I'm curious, like, let's go a little more free-form here. Like, if you were to say, what's the big ticket item that both an organization that you're representing here today, but also that you feel like the 3D Experience platform offers that differentiates itself or sets it apart? What are some of your favorite things?
Exactly. Well, the cloud, obviously, cloud tools are becoming the norm for a lot of us and a lot of things we do. Music, we talked about before, music, videos, the cloud has been something that our users have been asking for a long time. They've wanted data management on the cloud, and now we have one. We have one that's built from the ground up and architected for the cloud. So for those users that have been asking for that didn't want to have, servers and wanted quick time to value without having a lot of soul searching and configuration and implementation costs, but more of a plug and play. And I know at the beginning we quickly showed the dashboard type view, but the ability to configure, the user's experience from a standpoint of what they're looking at, that the dashboard that you use for looking at the data at our company might be different than the dashboard that I use. And I know you guys have covered it in previous live events, but integrating that with the collaboration, being able to collaborate with internal and external stakeholders. A small company that I represented might have investors. We don't do our own manufacturing like you do, so we need to interact with our manufacturers, and we can do that all easily with a cloud environment. And again, with very little overhead cost-wise, because when you get onto the 3D Experience Cloud, when you get the licenses, you get everything, all the muscle you need, like Omar was talking about earlier. All the firepower and the that you need to run those searches and indexing, all that kind of stuff isn't hardware that you have to buy. It's all included with that.
Yeah, I mean that's very appealing for somebody who's really concerned about how am I going to manage all this stuff. Well, I don't have to. I just log in, and that's it. And I think one of the other things that's really appealing, and you've alluded to it, and we've talked about it, is I can start where I want, where it feels right, and as my business grows, the 3D Experience platform has capabilities that grow there with me.
Yep.
So.
But both company-wide and user, right?
Sure,
user specific.
absolutely, yeah.
Not needing to give project management to everybody, but just to the people that need to do it.
Sure. Mark, let's, look, and I'm not diminishing the fact that like SolidWorks PDM and Manage are great for companies that want to grow into products as well too. I think they're all great for that. But let's look at SolidWorks PDM. What are some of the key differentiators that you feel like would be relevant to an organization like you're representing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really like that you said soul searching, because I think sometimes, for companies like mine, that's kind of what they go through.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know, but
Well, they have a
or they might have already kind of gone through it, right? So and that's kind of why I was highlighting a lot of the granular control over like revision schemes and workflows and stuff, because many of them have kind of already maybe gone through that soul searching process. So so I really, I think, appreciate in PDM again the granular control over all those things, the flexibility it provides, and I guess something on top of that I haven't talked about yet is the API access. So if you really want to take that controlled to another another level, it also has API. So, you can use that as well, which, I mean, that just takes it, that makes it incredibly flexible and useful.
Yeah, I mean, the minute you mention API, I mean, SolidWorks users who are familiar with what you can do with the API are familiar with this, but same thing with PDM, your options become unlimited with what you can do at that point. Having that level of access to that data is profound in how it can impact your organization, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, Michael, we've heard from Lisa and Mark. Tell us a little bit about Manage, from both an organizational perspective, how a tool like Manage, how does that tool set itself apart, and what do you see as some of the key things that really stand out?
Yeah, so in my case, we've been using PDM for a number of years, and I can easily extend the capabilities of SolidWorks PDM by bringing on SolidWorks Manage. It's built with it. But this is also applicable for companies that are looking for PDM and Manage at the same time. I mean, when you buy Manage, you get PDM with it. So you have that, Windows File Explorer interface for your files, and you also have SolidWorks Manage to handle these non-files that you need to keep track of, right? Items, bill of materials, records, and also one thing for us was report generation from some of this as a project goes through or gets released or when we're packaging up. It really gives us a whole wealth of things that we can automate and follow processes that we know that are unique to us and in our systems.
Well, this is great. I think all these tools offer unique capabilities to different types of customers, and that's really what we wanted to come here and explore today. And not that any one tool was the particular fit for either customer, we just happened to choose some of those. We thought it'd be an interesting exercise to look at what some of these different tools do. I want to thank each of you for being here today, kind of share some information with the viewers at home who might be unfamiliar with what data management tools are. And I encourage you, reach out to your SolidWorks reseller, learn more about data management if you're not using data management tools today. I'm sure everybody's been there where you've saved over somebody's file. You saved it in online file sync and share, and something gets out
And then
of
somebody
sync.
does it too.
Yeah. So if you've ever run into issues like that, I mean, that's what these tools are. They're solving that from a fundamental level, but also, as you've seen, they add more control over those files once they get into those systems and give you a lot more insight into your engineering data.
Well, yeah, with all of this, I mean, the reason why we're bringing on any of these is to protect our intellectual property. I mean, the data that we create, we don't just want it to break and fall apart. This preserves the intelligence that we're making.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Well, again, thanks everyone for joining us here today. We had fun coming up with kind of a different format that we were going to do here today. We encourage you to continue to participate with us on social media. Again, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and now Instagram as well as live.solidworks.com. Our next live event is going to be December 4th. I don't know that we actually have a title for yet, but we are going to be discussing Delmia Works over there. The shop floor is what we're going to be doing, live broadcast on December 4th. And shortly after that, we get excited every year. We have 3D Experience World coming not too long away, and we'll be doing tons of live broadcasts from there as well. So,
Thanks, Jeremy.
yeah, thanks everyone. And until next time, we'll see you soon.